All right, everyone. Thanks so much for listening to this very special episode. Special to me. Got to sit down with Tim Noah. Got to go out to the Pond Beyond out by in his neck of the woods. He invited us out. The open air recording, so you'll hear some nice little wildlife in the background too. Birds chirping. Yeah, even had chickens. A little wind here and there. A lot of fun. It's one of two, so it will come to kind of an abrupt end at one point, and that's just because we just kind of like moved on to a second recording. So just wanted to say special thanks to Tim and Cindy for hosting us and taking us around the Pond Beyond, his neck of the woods again, and just really thrilled. Also, major shout out to Jacqueline Morgley, our Wibble, right? Some know her from her maiden name. We went to high school. And then my bro, Adam Kenny, super thrilled that he was able to make it too. And anyway, thanks for listening. And just keep checking in for that second episode that'll be dropping in the next week or so. Thanks so much. Take care. Okay, well, let's get the intro going.
Ooh, I like this.
I like that too.
What do you like? Oh.
This is good. All right, everyone. Well, thanks for joining us for another episode of Full Buddy Cast. It's a special edition. I am seated here out in a serene, wonderful property, the Pond Beyond, which is located in Granite Falls. And if you heard that little guitar notes there, that little melody, that is from a childhood hero of mine, Tim Noah. He is with us today.
You were actually a child?
I was at some point. The gray beard. Don't let the gray beard fool you. It's toothpaste.
Don't let him take that hat off.
The hat's staying on. I'm also seated with my brother. That's his voice.
Yep.
And then one of my longtime friends, Jacqueline. Could you say your last name for me?
Loyable. Yeah.
That was even bad. I think that was bad.
I probably said it bad too.
Okay, all right. And we all are big fans of Tim Noah. So this is kind of how the podcast came about. This episode was at some point I think Fletcher Nelson had challenged me. He said, "Hey, you should totally do a podcast with Tim Noah. Hit him up, see what he's doing. What's the worst that could happen?" So what I do? I dreamed a little dream.
You did.
I dreamed a little dream, and my dream has come true. So I've been able to actually just got off a nice tour of the place, nice hike around his property. Got to meet with him, and now we have him on the podcast. Hit him up, and he's been very nice. I've blundered this thing a million times by going to the wrong location, not contacting him prior, calling him up. He's like, "Hey, Trav, thank you very much for being very, very nice." And he's coaching me along the way.
Everything works out exactly as it should.
That's exactly how it should.
I agree.
So, in this episode, we're going to talk kind of more about how you got involved in what you're doing, what you're currently doing as well. And so I would like also to share some stories from and questions, actually. People have got questions for you as well. So are you open?
I have answers.
Great.
I don't know if they'll be the right ones, but
all right. So, Tim, would you mind giving a brief overview of what you're known for, and then we can trace backwards? Are you cool with something like that?
Okay, so you brought up the thing. How did you come to do what you do?
Yeah.
I've been doing what I'm doing now for as long as I can remember. I don't know exactly what it is that I do, but I really enjoy it, and I intend to keep on doing it for as long as I can. When I was a young adult, I discovered I had an affinity for children. I had been performing for all ages and adults, and I'd been writing original songs, since I was about 12.
Wow.
And, my first public performance was at the Auburn High School Hootenanny. I was in 7th grade. I was the youngest performer. I walked on stage with a guitar. There was one microphone, And I walked up to it and I pulled it over a chair, put my foot on the chair, put my guitar on my knee, and I sang the only song that I knew, which was "It Takes a Worried Man to Sing a Worried Song." It was the Kingston Trio version, I believe. And the response was really quite wonderful.
Wow.
Probably because, I was the youngest performer, and we all feel that way when we see a young person get up and do something.
Yeah.
But I felt right at home. That was my point. When I walked on stage, it was like, yeah, this is where I belong, and as if I'd always been doing it. And truthfully, before that, I'd performed for family and friends. Even before I could play a guitar or sing, I like to get in front of an audience and make something happen. Try to find a way to entertain everyone. So from there, I got into folk music. Folk music was big at that time. The Beatles were also big, and at one point, folk music eclipsed the Beatles. And then the Beatles, of course, came back even stronger, and I followed all that, and I grew up with that. I grew up with Stan Borson.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Stan Borson. Zero ducka smoocha drunka hallelujah bub. Stan Borson. I'd run home from school and I'd watch King TV's Club with Stan, Nomo, and Peppino the Pet Flea, and all the Clubhouse gang. And this was the childhood that I had. Stan was so wonderful. You could tell he was always had a little smile, a little twinkle in his eye, and a smile. He was entertaining himself. And then, of course, Walt Disney and the wonderful world of color. And as I was writing songs, Roger Miller was a huge influence. He wrote really cool, fun songs that come on the radio. I mean, who writes songs like that anymore? They were so much fun. So this is what pulled me in. It was like a magnet. I kept moving towards that, and I learned a few rudimentary chords on the guitar, and then I started making up some of my own songs. And
So you taught yourself?
No, I can't take that
all
wouldn't
the
be
credit.
right. I did have a teacher, Fred Stoltz. Fred Stoltz had a studio in Auburn, and he taught violin and guitar, and he gave me my first lessons.
Yeah.
And then, once I got going, I was pretty much self-taught, and I learned from watching others play. And I can still smell my first guitar,
Yeah.
It's still in my memory.
Wow.
And what that felt like, what it felt like
To play and
to be around that. And my parents weren't musical. My brother played the accordion because of Stan Borson.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And now I have a friend, the studio I go to in Federal Way. He was like a childhood prodigy accordionist. So this is the world that I grew up in. And then my parents very much enjoyed what I was doing, and my dad got excited about me being musical, and they took me to USO shows and at Fort Lewis.
Yeah.
And I played endless little talent shows around, and hootenannies at the time, and it just became part of my life. I had junior high school friends, and we put together little rock bands. And
so when you put together these rock bands, where did you play, like little gigs anywhere?
Yeah.
Or?
Oh, yeah. We played at probably school dances and maybe junior high school assemblies or something like that.
Yeah.
Things like that. And then, of course, once I got in high school, it was a little different, but they had a drama club. We put on big talent shows and things like that. And it became kind of my identity. I'd carry my guitar around with me. And
Gotcha.
so I had a little following of sorts, people. Yeah. Oh yeah, there's Tim. He's the weird guy with that carries his guitar around, and I wasn't shy about performing, but I didn't just normally just pull out my guitar and start performing. But if there was an opening, and my father was very proud of me, and when people would come to visit he was a real estate salesman. So if a client came in, he'd say, "Hey, Tim, get your guitar and play a little song," you know. and I didn't really think twice about it, you know. I didn't always want to do it, but it wasn't a difficult thing, and I always got some kudos for it, you know.
Yeah.
There was some kind of recognition.
A little encouragement to keep moving. Hey, thanks for taking a quick break here. I just want to mention my podcast sponsors, Cole Street Brewery, 1627 Cole Street, Mazatlan in Enumclaw, Washington, as well as Bordeaux Wine Bar as well in Enumclaw, Washington. If you mention the podcast or you wear your Full Buddy Cast shirt, any swag that you have for Full Buddy Cast, you get a 10% discount. We also have a Patreon page where you can search that. Go hit up the link. I have it on the page on Facebook or also on Instagram. Follow the page. I'm always posting pictures. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate the support. Thank you very much. Back to your regular scheduled programming.
When did you write your first song? You said 12 years old or something, but when did you first?
I was about 13.
13? And that was with the guitar? That was with music?
Yeah, because I only knew, like... Here I lay in the dirt. A big... No, I won't finish it. It's, yeah. Anyway.
That's good. That was your first song?
Yeah, it was one of them. And I wrote one about getting picked on. You gotta quit kicking me around, pushing and shoving and knocking me down. And that turned into... Gotta quit kicking me around, pushing and shoving and knocking me down. I'm afraid to go to school. I'm all shook up. I said, don't be cruel. Singing, teacher, 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 can't you see that big booger's picking on me?
So you wrote so when you
Thanks for singing along.
That's okay.
I'm gonna sing every song.
I would want. This has been nonstop for me. We'll get that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But when you wrote "Big Boogers Picking on," were you getting picked? I mean, were you getting picked on as the guitar kid? Like, where did that come from?
Not for being the guitar kid.
What was the?
Well, I was always first of all, I was the third of three brothers.
Yeah.
I was the youngest.
So they are the big boogers,
They're the boogers.
then, in this case.
In this song?
Yeah, they were.
I was his big booger, so that makes sense.
They could be boogers. And then at school, you know, it's a universal thing.
Yeah.
You know, the little kids get picked on by the big kids,
Yeah.
and it's that thing that happens. But yeah, that particular song just struck a chord with so many kids.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the fact that I made it funny too.
Yeah.
You know, that
Well, it's
they could make it, you know, and he said booger.
Yeah,
You
right,
know,
right.
And that was a pretty big deal.
That was
yeah,
a
it's
big
a
deal.
reversal. We were talking about that on the way here. I was like, you know, as kids, you're used to picking boogers.
Yeah.
But these boogers are picking on you.
I flipped it
That's
around.
very good.
I flipped it. I flipped that booger.
It's better than flicking.
Or wiping. That's good. So when you said that when you kind of wrote it the first way, when did you revamp it into the one that we were singing and then entered into in the search of the wow wow Wibble, Woggle, Wazzie, Woodle, Woo?
Right. So when I reconstituted it, I revamped it when I started performing for children.
At what age would you say like were you starting to perform for children?
In my early 20s.
And was that something? I just have a quick question. Was that something that you were playing with friends, music with friends and bands and things like that? Was that something that any of them got on board with, or it was just you were like, you're going to do my own thing?
No, the children's performing was initially just me,
Okay.
and most of my performing has been solo. I've worked with bands. I've hired musicians to play in my band, and I've tried being a part of a band, which never really quite worked for me. And it's not because of them so much as largely to do with my personality and what I want to do. So to answer your question, I rewrote that song when I started performing for kids, and I've rewritten a number of songs over the years, thinking about the audience, thinking about, that's a good idea, but what would resonate with the audience?
Right.
And rock and roll, turning it into a rock song just seemed logical.
Yeah, it's definitely got an amazing beat. So I don't know when you want to jump to that, because that's one of my all-time favorite specials. That your special In Search of
In Search of the Wow Wow Wibble Woggle Wazzie Woodle.
yeah.
Go ahead, say it.
Okay, it's difficult.
I learned it when I was 2 years old,
yeah.
and all I could say at the time was "wow, wow, woo." So it took me a while to even figure out that it was a Wibble. Well, see, I'm doing it wrong already. It's
No, you
Wow,
had
wow,
it.
Wibble, Woggle,
Wibble
Wazzie,
Woggle.
Woodle.
Yeah, Wibble Woggle.
Wibble
Wibble
Woggle.
Woggle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I turned the wiggle and the wobble to wibble and woggle.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
I was flipping the script.
So okay. So the story of the Wow Wow Wibble Woggle Wazzie Woodle Woo.
Yes.
I'd been performing for kids for a while, and I realized that they like to get up and dance.
yes.
They didn't mind me performing for them, but they like to be involved in the performance and
Yep.
get up and dance. So the only thing going was like the hokey pokey and stuff like that. And nothing against hokey pokey,
Yeah.
but I felt like it was time for something new. So I was in my little studio in my basement, and I was playing with alliteration and rhythm. The sound words have rhythm, and stringing words together, and so I came wow, 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 wibble, wow, wow, wiggle, woggle, wow, wow, wibble, woggle, and wow, and then now it has that wow, wibble, woggle, wazzie,
Yes.
right, and so once I had that, then so then what is the dance? So that's the name of the dance, but what is the dance? And then it's like the verses are like instructions.
Yeah.
Clap your hands, stomp your feet,
Yes.
jump as high as you can, and boogie to the beat, Funny thing is that it resonated. Again, it was one of those things that just resonated. The audience had fun saying it.
Yes.
They had fun doing it.
Yep.
They had fun jumping up in the air and shouting it. And I don't know.
But then also the meaning that was attached to it too. I mean, yes, in itself, the words are awesome, but then the meaning of like the search for it and what is it?
Oh yeah, the search came later. So that the whole idea of the search for this mythological thing came. We wrote a play in search of the Wow Wow Wibble Woggle Wazzie Woodle Woo.
And real
I
quick,
think before the album was recorded.
when you say we,
Oh yes, very important question. Thank you for asking. I was working with my brother and his wife, my sister-in-law, and we worked together 10 years. They made a huge contribution to my career. They were the organization behind what I was doing. First of all, they appreciated what I was doing. They loved what I was doing. They had both been educators. They were ready to do something new, and we were tight. We were on a wavelength. So I called them. They were in Idaho. My brother just finished a year of teaching. I said, I can't think of anybody I'd rather work with, and would you and Mary consider managing my career? And before that, Mary, my sister-in-law, set up a tour of the Boise area. I went into grade schools there and did school assemblies.
oh wow,
Yeah, she really supercharged my whole thing, and I was on the front page of the Idaho Statesman, for gosh sakes, because of her. And I was on local radio and television, and she did the whole publicity thing. She was awesome. And then then it was like, well, gee, could we continue this, please?
Right.
Yeah.
Could we do more of this? And she was pretty gung ho and ready to do something, but they had to pick up and leave their beautiful home, a log home in Idaho, to come over here and move into a little rental unit that I found for them.
Wow.
And they had 2 little girls. So it was a major decision for them.
So with that, because I want to dive a little deep into your mind. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Sorry.
It doesn't go that deep.
What did that's a lot of pressure to even, I would say, put on you.
Or that they believed in you.
And that they believed in you.
that much.
And now it was like, this is really real. Like, there's people that have kind of uprooted themselves, moved over here on the west side. And then what was your mindset during that? Did you have any doubts during that time? Or were you like, this is what I needed?
No? Wow.
Well, I didn't, because I could see that it was working. I could see that we had an audience, and I could see that we were doing something new, and and it was exciting.
Yeah.
And I had a ton of creative energy for it. It wasn't like, I think I'm all out of ideas.
Yeah.
So with my brother Creed and my sister-in-law Mary, you had your own vision, and you have 2 more people sharing the vision, and now you've really got something.
Yeah.
It made it very. I just felt like there was no end to the possibilities.
Yeah.
And everyone kind of had that same vision too. It sounds like with that, when they came over here, everyone caught the vision.
They caught it. Yeah, they brought their own, and they saw what I was doing. They were very, very tuned into what I was doing.
Yeah.
As people who love children, and they were educators. So they just picked up on all the content that was inherent, that was already there. I didn't write songs I didn't write songs thinking, I got to put content in these songs so that, that they could be qualified as content rich.
Yeah.
I just wrote from my own childhood experience and from my own inspiration, and the content was there. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So they were coming over. You start to write. This is when I interrupted you and said, "Who's the we?" So now you guys caught the vision. Now it's like the inspiration. You wrote
Noah's Art Productions. We called it Noah's Art. Noazart.
I like that.
Noah's Art Productions, and we worked together for 10 years, and I've missed them ever since. Quite frankly,
Yeah.
it was just the best.
So you guys put this production together, a little bit more of than just doing a live show, or was it a live show to begin with? Before you
Mostly live shows.
Yeah.
That was our bread and butter. At one point I was doing upwards of 250 school shows a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
And school's only in.
And that's how most kids around here, or
Yeah.
who are not kids anymore, that's the initial contact was that.
Yep.
And it was, it was this formidable little unit that came into the school, the Tim Noah show.
Yeah.
And I was the front man, but there was all this energy behind it too. And there was organization, and there was communication, my brother on the phone, and written letters, and, inquiries, and et cetera, et cetera.
But you were known for it. A lot of the people that when I said, hey, share your Tim Noah stories, like message me, I want to know, I want to tell him about it. Several that had reached out said they remember getting pulled up on stage and at these live shows, getting a hat or getting something signed and being pulled up on stage. In fact, one person said, I think it was Fletcher Nelson, said that did you ever have any kids fall off the stage? Because sometimes you would pack the stage out with all of these kids jumping around
Right.
on the stage.
Right. There were some people that were pretty nervous about that. It never happened.
That's good.
Yeah.
It never happened. And, we were pretty, as rock and roll as that was,
Yeah.
we were pretty careful to have spotters.
Oh.
I'd often call on parents, right? If I saw parents down below, I said, would you please come forward and watch the kids and make sure nobody falls off. And then it was controlled chaos. There was a control about it. And the kids, for the most part, were well behaved.
Yeah, they weren't crazy.
They understood that we needed to, we're all going to have a good time, but it's only going to be a good time if nobody goes just absolutely crazy and knocks somebody off the stage.
Yeah. Did you ever have to stop? Okay, guys, kill the music for a moment.
Never had to do that.
That's good.
I don't ever remember having to do that.
That's good.
I had a couple times where, it caught, and I was, you understand, as a performer, I'm drawing energy from the audience.
Yeah.
And I'm looking out at the audience. I'd also pick up on if something wasn't quite in place.
Yeah.
And as far as pulling kids up on stage, I was pretty alert to 9 times out of 10, it worked really well.
Yeah.
I picked the right kid.
That's
Yeah.
Sometimes you pick one and they just kind of stand there.
Oh, I see. This no energy and
Well, yeah, they didn't know. Once they got there, they didn't know what to do. They either felt uncomfortable or they really lost, or they got stage fright or whatever. But most of the time, it was I was detect the right kid. Intuitively, I know.
So,
but as far as kids falling off the stage or anything like that, I would notice things like somebody's beginning to move too far to one way or the other, and I did some herding. I mean, I've done that. I'm just kind of
corral the kids.
Come on, while I'm performing, and kind of get in the way of that.
So Adam mentioned earlier that at the Wow Wow Woo, this was like
That's
a
what I
growing
called it,
up. Yeah, this was a growing up thing. My mom even says to this day, "Hey, ask him if he remembers that kid who was 2 years old that said Wow Wow Woo." I'm like, you know how many kids probably said that? But we waited in line. This was sitting in our bedroom,
right?
Since 2 years old until when I moved out. It was, so my mom handed me that.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, when you're a kid, you don't really think of all the energy. Now, what it is it's a 2 Travis and a 2 Adam. Love Tim Noah. Now, every I has a star. My V has a heart, which I thought that was impressive. Probably not too many V's in people's names, but how many, my hand hurts just signing a few Christmas cards.
Right.
Yours has got to be at the end of the night after strumming a guitar and microphone and then going into signing autographs. I mean, did you have to ice that thing nightly or what?
The truth is I love doing all that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So this was amazing. This was an amazing thing. I do feel bad, though, about this next thing I'm going to show you. So as heartwarming as that probably was, we left.
Yeah.
we left.
That's what happens
in the summer in our car.
Can you tell the viewers what that looks
what
like?
It is, it's a Noah's Art record in search of the Wow Wow Wibble Woggle Wazzie Woodle Woo. Little Miracles, Sunshine and Morning, Musty Moldy Melvin, one of the greatest songs. Musty Moldy Melvin, absolutely amazing.
I'll perform a little of that for you.
Awesome.
Okay, good.
Friends with a Song. Anyway, I can do
song.
Anything is a huge one too. And then Zoom, that's a great one. We'll go through some of these, but anyways, it's a warped. Looks
record,
like if you're gonna go down to the Kentucky Derby and you're wearing a sun hat.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like. It looks
You
like
could
big
make a little
ribbon.
hat out of that.
Yeah. So we actually, when we saw this, it was it's one of our favorites, right?
Yeah.
So
I should be taking pictures.
We'll take
it
some.
looks like you guys are already in tune. So we hung this up. And we were like, well, we can't listen to it anymore. What are we going to do with it? And so instead we hung it up in our room.
on the wall.
And and it was like our
Art.
It was our art.
Yeah, it's art.
So
Well, thank you for that. I love seeing those things.
Yeah.
Those
And-
things. So I do want to go back just a little bit to
Yeah.
the signatures, and you said your
Yeah,
hand
yeah.
get tired, and you see what may not be obvious is that the performer expresses themselves on the stage, and it's as if I never allowed contact after the show, or if I'd said, no, don't applaud. I'm just going to perform for you, and then I'm going to go away, right?
Yeah.
So my teacher explained this to me. He said, the audience needs to express themselves as well. And part of the reward for me was doing the show, leaving the stage, and getting contact one-on-one with those people like yourselves, and hearing what mattered to them, what was important to them, and it was vindication, and it was encouragement for me then to do more, right? And it's making a difference. I'm touching.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for taking a quick break with me. I've been kicking around this idea for quite a while. If you're interested, that's great. If not, maybe one day. And that's it. One day. One day you're going to want to hear your loved one's voice again. One day you're going to want to hear that story one more time. I've heard a lot of people when they are missing someone, they have the photographs, they maybe even have some video footage from their cell phone, but they don't have that audio, that crystal clear, as if you're talking to them on the phone or having them in the living room, where you can just pop the earbuds in, listen to their voice one more time. So here's what I'm offering. Come in, you'll sit with me. Just tell me what you want to talk about. And this isn't an episode where I just dominate the conversation. This is where you get to take control of what you want to talk about. It could be stories. It could be that maybe you want to just leave this for your great-grandchildren or your kids or your wife or your husband. Something to where anything were to happen, if they're ever missing you, because, hey, one day, right, they're going to want to listen to that voice again. One day, they're going to want to pop that in and hear that awesome story. So hit me up about this. It's $25 a half an hour. That includes editing. Typically, the turnaround time is a couple days. We'll set up a time, come down, go as long as you want. I'll edit it up a little bit, email you the MP3 document. Now, yeah, could you do this at home on your own tape recorder? Sure. But is it going to have the quality? Are you going to get that MP3 format that you can email your friends and your family? Do a Christmas greeting. Do a birthday greeting. Just tell stories. Is it your anniversary coming up? You want to talk about the time you guys met from your side? Tell your kids. There's so many ways that you could sit down and just have that conversation. Right now, again, this is the beginning stages, so that's why it's a little bit cheaper, $25 a half an hour, and that does include editing. So if it takes a half hour to edit, there's $25 there. So let's say it's an amazing episode. Let's say you really like it. Let's say you want to share it to the people. Well, you got two choices. You now have an MP3 format where you have it for yourself, and then you can start your own podcast. This doesn't have any association with Full Buddy Cast. You're just using the equipment. Or if you want this to go on Full Buddy Cast, because I have people hitting me up all the time. Oh, I would get the ratings. I would get the ratings. I would get the ratings. And yeah, if it's an awesome show, of course, we'll talk about airing it. I'm cool with that. So if you want to come on down, let's get you in here. Hit me up, message me, DM me. I'm super interested in try this out. Hit me up one day. I couldn't believe how many people that you did make an impact on. I mean, I know you did, right? For me, it was like Santa Claus, Steve Largent, Tim Noah. I mean, that was my top three in the 80s. Like, those were my heroes when I was a kid, right? And so we would watch, I think my mom recorded it on a VHS, your special.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, as a kid, I'm watching your special, and I'm not thinking, I'm having fun, right? It's got so much imagination. The costumes are flawless. It was in black and white. It's like, I'm not thinking about that as a kid. I watched it the other day. Okay, I got my 4.5-year-old. This is gonna sound maybe a little bit like, listen to the whole story first. Okay, so kids today, they jump on YouTube or wherever, and it's just like 3-second clips, and it's flashing, it's loud,
Right.
and it's like they don't have an attention span, really, right? And so I'm like, you're gonna watch this. We're gonna watch this. You're gonna watch what Dad watched when he was a kid. So I sat her on my lap, pulled it up on YouTube, and I'll purchase one from you. I feel like I bootlegged a copy because it's on YouTube. Sorry about that.
We'll talk about that later. No, I don't blame you.
So
My own problem.
yeah.
Go ahead.
So within 3 minutes, she's 4.5. She speaks her mind. She bluntly says, boring. Okay, now I'm sorry. This is the very beginning.
It's all right.
So, but then I'm like, we're going to keep watching. 2 minutes later, she's like, is he going to go into the closet? And then after that, we watched the whole thing. She wanted to watch it again, and we probably watched it like 40 times since then. And that was probably
Right.
about a month and a half ago. Again, I have to buy a copy. So anyway, like you're even now going against these millions of different types of videos that are aimed at children, and that's my most requested thing to watch is you're going up against these things even 20 30 what was that, when did it come out?
85, I think, yeah.
85? Yeah,
Mid-80s,
yeah, and you're still blowing them out of the water.
Yeah, what's your thought on that as far as like what the content that they're creating for kids these days, and just how, I guess it's almost like, I don't want to say like a drug.
Yeah, well, I find a lot of it. I mostly would like to talk about what I do
Yeah,
and not criticize others.
Okay.
that makes
I
sense.
just suffice to say that I think kids aren't given enough credit for their intelligence and for their, and I think what we did gave kids credit. That we recognize that they have a mind.
Yeah.
and imaginations. You know, one of the things that I'm proud about the Wazzie Woodle is it left a lot while it inspired imagination, it also left a lot to imagination.
It did.
Yeah.
So we didn't fill in all the blanks. We didn't put a bunch of stuff in your face and tell you what to see. We let you see what was in your mind.
Yeah.
So, for example, the alien in the closet,
Yes.
the hand comes out. What does the rest of that alien look
Right.
like?
Yeah.
You hear the voice, you see the hand.
Yeah.
The big booger, you see the legs, but you don't see the rest of. So you that left leaves.
Yeah.
Is amazing as the special effects and things are today, and what people can do, and some of which I think is awesome and I enjoy. I think that was something that I'm very proud of. And I give the director, Barry Callier, who was actually a high school friend of mine, who was the director of that film. It was right around the time MTV was coming out, and lots of, short edit, quick edit, bam, bam,
Yeah.
bam, 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 bam. And he said, well, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
You're right.
We're gonna follow you. We're gonna stay on you. We're gonna do a
Yeah.
long camera moves, just slow camera moves, and we're gonna stay on you. And I think the reason it does the experience that you spoke of with your child is what I hear continues.
Yeah.
And I think we just made a lot of good choices.
You
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
The editing, so when I watched it now as an adult watching it, the time it took to put together that set, I mean, as your kid, you don't even think about it. You're just like, oh, cool. But like black and white in the background, hitting all the corners, all the lines. And then like, I feel like you said it earlier when we were talking, where you said it went from like the Disney, the world of color, it kind of, when that color comes in, when that closet is purple for a moment, that purple light,
Right.
and then when the jungle scene, and then you get into when Musty Moldy Melvin come out, and then it was just like, it really popped, it kind of brought it out,
Right.
almost like a 3D book kind of a thing.
That's right.
Like
That's
comic
right.
book.
Like call it a three-dimensional pen and ink drawing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the credit goes to Roland Thomas, who designed the set. And he if he were here, he'd say, well, I based it on one of your drawings.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was drawing the first album. If you
think we've
still have it.
So we've got another. This is what
it has a booklet inside, doesn't it?
Yeah.
No,
Would
I
you
don't
mind
know.
pulling it out?
I don't know if it does.
I think I put it on the wall when we were kids.
It's okay. It used to come with a booklet.
It used to. I think this has been a.
I can dig one up.
Yeah.
Really?
I've got
awesome.
one. But anyway, so before I did the Wazzie Woodle, I did a little booklet called Country Store. It came with a cassette. And I was enamored or excited about the idea of, I loved children's illustrations, and I wanted to do that too. I always wanted to do all that. I love all that stuff and the creativity. And so I'd done this little book, and the feedback I got from parents was, well, we think that's great, but we really want to hear more songs. We want, because they'd already heard me perform all these songs. So where are the songs?
Yeah.
Come on, get on with the songs. Get it. So that's what, led to the album and so on. And, but I still held on to that idea, and I created a booklet that went inside there with illustrations.
Yeah.
It didn't have to do that, but that's what I wanted to do. And then, but they were done in pen and ink. And when we started talking to the set designer about what we were going to do, he said, pointed at one of my drawings, says, "Well, there's your set.
Wow.
We'll design it with that, in that regard, that way." And it was like, dang, right guy, right place, right time, right idea. And we had a lot of that, synchronicity,
Really?
right. We were attracting it,
Yeah.
the energy of it, the goodness of it, the love of it attracted more of the same other people.
I don't want to get that too. I don't want another warped record.
Yeah, put in the.
What do you want to say?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here.
I'll do it.
Thank you. How much time went into build, and what was your crew like? Was it like putting together that set?
My brother and I were just talking about that. My brother my brother and my dad were working on the set, and they started in on it. They got the design, the drawings. We rented a warehouse in Seattle. They started getting the materials together based on what the designer said, and they realized they were way in over their head. And the designer said, "Well, I do know a set builder." And so Andy Houston was the principal set builder. And I don't know how many months they worked on that.
Oh, wow.
But it was originally designed to travel.
Oh wow.
I was gonna ask that. So
It would have been a lot less work, but we actually made it to fold up and go in the back of a good-sized truck and hit the road, and it never did.
never did.
no.
We couldn't get anybody interested in paying.
Bummer. What a missed opportunity that was.
Well, I think so too, but Seattle's Children's Theater had their own shows. They didn't want Tim Noah coming in and doing a show, that's my thinking. And then the expense of hauling that stuff around, having a crew set it up, it was kind of cost prohibitive.
Yeah.
It was a great idea. And there was another factor. I was beginning to head in a different direction.
Oh.
And there was other things that I wanted to explore. Keep in mind, I'd been Wazzie Woodling for years.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And every time I got on stage, I enjoyed it. But there was another part of me that was going, I wanna.
Yeah.
Creative.
And that was what?
Well, then I did, Dare Dreamer, and I, and oddly enough, people still there was a lot of my fans stuck with me in spite of the fact that, well, that's a left curve, where are you going there? And it was my, I'm going to be a rock star thing, and I'm going to be a pop star or whatever. And the same friends that I'd worked with on the Wazzie Woodle, the director and the co-producer, her name was Pat Royce, had an idea for a movie called Daredreamer. And so we'd get together and talk about ideas, and I started writing songs for it. And one thing led to another. But meanwhile, here's my brother and sister-in-law in the trenches, keeping the Tim Noah Productions thing alive. And how do we do that? We got to go out and do shows. We got to do that Wazzie Woodle show. We got to keep doing these shows.
Yeah.
And I'm going, okay, I'm with you, but I kind of wasn't with them, right?
Yeah.
I was pulling.
Split.
There was, and it created tension and so on and so forth. And but oddly enough, one of the anthem from that Daredreamer album was "Dare to Dream," and that became like my swan song of the end of a show. And people would look forward to that, and they'd buy the record just for that song, because it made them, it gave them such an uplifting feeling.
Yeah.
So everything, and then I went from there to doing Cattywampus, which was a country. It was still more in the children's folk, but more folkish, and tip of the hat to the Wazzie Woodle, just fun. But I had written Country Store, if you remember, before any of this.
Yeah.
And it was a story song. And so I thought, I know, I'll write an album of story songs. So I had The Great Potato Uprising and Country Store and Mud and several others that told stories. Yeah, each one of them has its own merit, I guess.
Yeah.
But not a logical way to run your career.
Well,
And not necessarily the best way to achieve maximum success.
sure, but
fun.
success is in the eye
But
of the
fun.
beholder, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting back, I want to get back to the
Please do.
sorry.
Pull me back.
to the special. I don't call it special.
And like I said, don't feel obligated to use a lot. You can throw a lot of this away.
No.
I will blabber. I like to blab.
So do I.
Yep.
So do I.
in the right company.
We'll be a rock'em sock'em tournament of blabbering back and forth and see whose head pops up first. So the Musty Moldy Melvin, who created that whole costume? Like who drew
Based
it?
on a drawing
Yeah.
of one of my drawings. And then we hired a couple of sculptors, puppet makers, and they made those characters, and they made the critters, which were impossible, to we put my sister-in-law in one of them. I don't know.
That was my next question. Who was in those?
Friends, anybody
Who
we
would
could
watch
get. That's not exactly true. They had to want to get inside there a little bit. They had to be willing, because they were just awful costumes, to get inside of them.
Do we get to sing a song soon?
I was going to do
This
Musty
one?
Moldy Melvin.
Yes.
I
Since you spoke of Musty Moldy Melvin.
This is my daughter's favorite song.
Yeah.
She does the oochie coochie coo.
Yeah. I always enjoyed. I like to sing this like around a campfire or something.
Yeah.
Right. Get. Musty Moldy Melvin moseyed out of the moss. His beard and his eyebrows and his hair were green. He was musty and rusty and crusty and dusty. He must have been the mustiest Melvin I've ever seen. and greasy, grimy Gertie gurgled out of the gravy. That's where she likes to go to get herself
Clean. Oh,
I was hoping you'd say that. I couldn't remember the words right then. She was greasy and grimy and slippery and slimy. She must have been the greasiest Gertie I've ever seen. Then musty, moldy Melvin did a hoochie coochie coo. And greasy, grimy Gertie did the boogie 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 boo. And they danced all night in a gurgly gloppy goo. It was a sight to see.
nice.
It's not done.
I know. I know.
All kinds of creepy critters creeped out of the creek. They took me by surprise. They made me wanna
Scream!
They were creepy and crude and tasteless and rude. They must have been the creepiest critters I've ever seen. Then musty, moldy Melvin did a hoochie coochie coo. And greasy, grimy Gertie did the boogie 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 boo. And the creepy little critters in the gurgly gloppy
Goo!
wanted to dance with me.
Dude, very good.
Very good.
Thanks for joining
You're
in.
welcome.
Yeah, very good. That scene, you just getting surrounded by them. I mean, I don't know if you know this. Maybe you do. Maybe people told you this 1,000 times, but it was always fun to later, when no one's around, act out scenes, at least for me. Scenes. And my cousin, we were talking about this, my cousin Aaron, we would open that closet. We would like first look at the closet, you know, and then we would open it. We'd try kayaking away, kind of like you did, or swimming away. Like this would be our imagination fun time. Jacqueline, what was you were telling me your favorite, what you always wanted to do is the Zoom Zoom song.
Oh, well, of course, with the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. As a kid, to
Yes.
see this thing that was just so kind of boring and monotonous, the peanut butter and jelly, and then it's like life size and you're jumping on it. As a kid, I mean, it's just, yeah, I mean, you don't get that in your normal life. And to have this video that really ignited, like you say, that imagination, yeah, it was wonderful.
Oh, man.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So lovely to hear these stories.
Yeah.
So Zoom, I wrote a poem in high school. I like to hum while I chew my peanut butter sandwich. Or I wrote it in past tense. I used to hum while I chewed my peanut butter sandwich. I blew motorboat bubbles in my milk or glass. Made faces in the toasters. Right. So I'm sure I was at the time, and at that age, I was kind of looking fondly back or going, that I used to have fun like
Right.
that, and what's happening, to me, but in a way. So, but somehow I remembered that little piece of that poem when I started performing for children, and again, the rhythmic thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, the energy that kids have, that energy, and so yeah, that's nice to hear.
Adam, you had a question about the bathtub.
With Dad?
Was that your dad in the bathtub?
It was not, but I'll tell you, it's interesting that you asked. The fellow that was in the bathtub was actually the producer of the record.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Of the Wazzie Woodle record. That's Rob Moitoza. And Rob is all over it. He's all over that album and as a result also all over the movie. And he played that role and he worked on recording the sound and sound effects. Oh, and that whole little sequence that's not on the album at the beginning, the radio stuff.
I love that.
That's so good.
That's all stuff
best.
that Rob and I created.
You know what's
afterwards.
funny?
The sunglasses. I mean, that was one of my
Yeah, the sunglasses and flip them off and break. Shh. But the funny thing is that when I was a kid, I thought those were real songs. And so now I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, he made all of these songs up as he was flipping through the radio.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he was sampling, which I thought he was. I thought he was actually listening to the radio.
Right.
And Travis and I still, well, I don't know the context when we would, but we still will say KALM.
Calm. yeah. We'll say that I'll say it to my kids. I'll say, hey, I want some KALM.
Yeah, it's funny,
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening to the first part of the two-parter of the Tim Noah special episode we had for Full Buddy Cast. Want to thank him tremendously. What a great guy. I'm going to hit up probably just a separate podcast, just me. Maybe I'll bring on Adam and Jacqueline. I'm trying to figure that out. But I got to tell you something, and I'll tell you this when I talk about it, but it just hit me. Like, there were some cool moments in that whole thing and how it was orchestrated. And there was a point, I think, where he said, hey, all things, go work the way they're supposed to. They work out the way they're supposed to. And meeting him was just one of those things where it worked the way it was supposed to, couldn't ask for a nicer guy, couldn't ask for a nicer guest. And, they always tell you, hey, don't meet your heroes, right? Don't meet your heroes because you might be disappointed. Maybe they don't treat you the way in your mind you thought they would. He treated me and Adam and Jacqueline the way that I expected him to. He was super nice and amazing, a great entertainer, great stories, very hospitable. Him and Cindy Soup, they were super sweet, super sweet. So that was a lot of fun. Even now, Jacqueline and I and Adam and I, we'll talk. Just me and Jacqueline will FaceTime. Man, wasn't that a great experience? Back and forth. Anyway, I'm excited to release the second one. Thank you for listening to Full Buddy Cast, and I appreciate all the support. I'm going to just pour out right now real quick the Patreon members that help support the podcast as well, the sponsors. So Patreon, thank you very much to all my Patreons. Thank you for Holly and Desi and Adam and also Cassie, Casey, Seth, Ira, Amanda, Kellen, and Eric. Appreciate you guys. Also, thank you to Cole Street Brewery for being a great sponsor. Mazatlan as well. Go visit those locations, and Bordeaux Wine Bar. And if you wear the Full Buddy Cast shirt, mention Full Buddy Cast, they'll give you 10% off at those locations, all in Enumclaw, Washington. So, again, thank you for listening, and have a great day, have a great week, and big, big thanks to Tim Noah. Take care.